I originally covered Aldon Smith's story back in 2018. That video is admittedly a little bit dated, but it tells Aldon's story from his childhood all the way up to him basically being kicked out of the NFL after a series of alcohol abuse problems, amongst other things. Now a couple years have passed and Aldon has been cleaning up his act and just recently signed a deal with the Dallas Cowboys. So basically, he's come full circle since the last video. So today I want to cover some behind the scenes things that at least suggest that this time around might be a little bit different for Aldon. This is what happened to Aldon Smith, part 2. Cue the Wayne.
You'll never know quitter, 'cause I'ma go get her.
So I know everybody out there is desperately missing sports. I'm trying to do my part with entertaining content. And if you're missing fantasy football, then today's video sponsor, Champions Round, is trying to do their part. Check it out. With Champions Round, you're the GM in the 2020 NFL Draft. You on the clock. You got next pick. You can form a league with your partners or just go up against the world drafting NFL prospects. It's connected to the real life draft as you earn points based on where your guys get picked. So stay home and draft with Champions Round. Check out the free app in the Apple App Store. So let's do a brief recap. Aldon Smith was the number 5 overall recruit in the state of Missouri back in 2007. He attended the University of Missouri, and after a redshirt season, dude put up 11 sacks his first year on the field, winning Big 12 Freshman of the Year. After one more season there, he made the jump to the NFL and was selected 7th overall by the San Francisco 49ers. Once he was in the league, he took off fast, becoming a Pro Bowler and even an All-Pro after only his 2nd season in the NFL. That was back in 2012 and Aldon Smith was red hot. But maybe that's just because he was burning the candle on both ends. That same year, he was arrested for his first DUI. Then over the next few years, Aldon's alcohol abuse problems were thrust more and more into the forefront as he was involved in a single car accident while being under the influence, randomly threatened a TSA agent, was involved in a hit and run where he was intoxicated, and one of the weirdest ones is a situation where he bit a chick on the wrist after downing 2 bottles of tequila. So my mans was all over the place. This type of behavior pretty much went on non-stop from 2012 all the way to 2019. Yeah, just last year. Aldon played sparingly between 2013 and 2015 and was actually still one of the very best pass rushers in the league during the times where he wasn't serving a suspension or dealing with an injury. Problem is, he was pretty much always doing one of the two. This eventually led to him not re-signing with the 49ers. The Raiders ended up picking him up, but then released Aldon shortly thereafter. And as of today, dude hasn't played football in nearly 5 years. So now you're caught up. In March of this year, Aldon was in the process of applying for reinstatement. The Dallas Cowboys got wind of that and beat everybody to the punch when they signed Aldon to a deal potentially worth up to $4 million in incentives. This caught a lot of people off guard as it seemed pretty out of the blue. Aldon's 30 years old now and hasn't played football in years, so yeah, I get the shock. As far as what kind of player Aldon's gonna be for the Cowboys at this stage in his life, is honestly anybody's guess. But being 30 years old and missing several years of football, I mean, obviously the odds are not in his favor. With that said, I got some information that may actually bode well for Aldon being able to have an impact on the Cowboys defense, at least in some type of capacity. But before we get to that, I want to discuss the fact that there have been some really positive signs pertaining to Aldon the person. Then we'll talk about the football player in a second. Addiction is a real thing, and I've covered it in detail in videos like what happened to Josh Gordon, Monty Ball, and so many others. Aldon had a problem, and once he finally admitted it to himself, he was able to get the help that he needed. Ironically, in 2015, when Aldon played his last down of NFL football, Jay Glazer and Nate Boyer created an organization called MVP, Merging Vets and Players. Here's a statement from co-founder Nate Boyer about general purpose of the organization. Both warfighters and football players need something to fight for once the uniform comes off and your service to your country or time on the field is over. Without real purpose for the man on your right and left, it can be easy to feel lost. It's dope that they created this because too often we see former athletes and also military veterans really struggle in those latter stages of their lives. Their career careers generally end sooner than a lot of other careers. And while we all think retirement is great when we're kids, all the people that put themselves in a position to be able to retire early are generally not the type of people who do well with idle time. They've been grinding. On the football side of it, a lot of guys make it out of their environment solely due to football. It gives them something to do and goals to shoot for. It keeps them out of the streets. Once it's gone, due to age, injury, or in Aldon's case, suspension, they often don't have anything to replace football with, and that's when they start to fill their idle time more and more with destructive behavior. It's a story we've seen over and over and over with athletes, and the same can be said probably to a greater degree with military veterans. Organizations like MVP at least offer a partial solution to this problem. It's dope that they're doing something. In a nutshell, and I'm definitely simplifying it, but basically they mix working out as a group with group therapy, and they've seen a ton of success and have helped a ton of people. If you ever ask a retired athlete what they miss most about their playing days, they'll often answer with something like being around the guys, or I miss the locker room, I miss the camaraderie. MVP figured out something. It's not rocket science to offer a replacement for that. It just takes people that give a damn. According to Jay Glazer, he was introduced to Aldon about 9 months ago and was able to get him into the group. During that entire time, Aldon has not missed a single session, okay? So 9 months, he hasn't missed a single session. He's shown accountability and bonded with the military guys, which makes sense because, as we covered in the first video, Aldon's dad is a former military guy who was super strict on Aldon growing up, and it seems Aldon may have lost his way at a point, but this group has helped him to get back on track. He's been open and vulnerable in the group, and that's really helped him to deal with this issue. He even flew out when they opened a new location in New York to talk with vets and players out there. Dude's super committed, super grateful to the group. It's done a lot for him. Perfection is a constant pursuit, and like all of us, I'm sure when it comes to that, Aldon's got a long way to go. With that said, I want to show a fundamental difference in his mindset now versus back when he was getting constantly arrested. Notice in this old clip, Aldon completely refused to take any accountability and continued to lie about the situation despite the fact that it was very obvious that he wasn't telling the truth. Like, honestly, this goes to the point of ridiculousness.
I've never done anything, I've never hurt anybody, and I'm not that type of person. So let's start replacing these stories. That's your story, all right? Get out of my face now, please.
So you're denying that you were detained for public intoxication?
No, hell no.
Were you involved in a crash with police officers?
No. If I was involved with I couldn't go from I couldn't do that.
Well, we saw your SUV be towed away with your license plates, the car that's leased by you.
That wasn't me.
Not driving?
No.
But you were in the car?
No. The girlfriend who was driving. You guys didn't need to stop this story.
But in this IG post from earlier this month, you can see a completely different mindset. There's beauty in the struggle. Life will always present us with tests. I've learned how to take a different perspective on the adversities of life instead of looking at life as a victim. I've embraced the journey as God has planned it, making exponential strides toward becoming a better man. Take this time that we have away from our normal day-to-day activities and think about changing your perspectives. Focus not on how bad a situation is, but instead on how we can all come out of this as better people. Let's work on the things we've been putting off and grow towards our ultimate potential. Yo, not to toot my own horn here, but yeah, that sounds like the closing of a FlemLo Raps video. And to see now that that's how Aldon's thinking, it lets me know that something has clicked. Somebody had a breakthrough. Like I said earlier, Aldon Smith bonded with a lot of the veterans in their group, but one guy in particular he's got really close with is a cat named Sergio. And see, Sergio offers Aldon something that is oh so important: perspective. Aldon at the time was a former NFL player with some demons, had a drinking problem, got into some trouble, felt like the world was against him. Sergio is a Marine who's lost 45 compadres to suicide, and who the hell knows what else he's seen. So when you're a pro athlete with a few issues, having a conversation with Sergio, it really puts things into perspective and make you look at your problems a whole lot different than you were before. And it's crazy because Sergio is a lot of things, but he also happens to be a Cowboys fan. And dude just hit the fan jackpot. Cat that he done got real close with just got signed to the Cowboys. He about to have access to hella jerseys, tickets, and he finna be straight. Aldon has vowed to help a lot of people with this story, and hopefully the group holds him to that. He's working to become a better human, and that's dope. And I know what you're saying, FlemLo, that's all cool, but what about football? You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, the MVP organization is part group therapy, but it's also part working out. And again, we're talking military guys and professional athletes, so we're talking intense workouts. As for Aldon, he's been going hard and is said to be in crazy good shape. He's said to have put on even more muscle and has a super low body fat percentage. Here's the thing though, he's damn near 30 pounds heavier than he was when he played, okay? He's said to be 287, up from a 260 playing weight, but still with V-taper abs. So impressive physique, no doubt, but will that actually translate to the field? 27 extra pounds is a ton, but rest assured, if we actually have training camps, and hopefully we have training camps, but if we do, a lot of that weight is gonna come off anyway. No way he's gonna hold that through an entire NFL training camp. And there's a situation where added muscle can be beneficial to a player, especially a guy who plays on the defensive line, but there's also situations where added muscle, aka added weight, just takes away from a player's agility, takes away from their burst. We have no idea what that's actually gonna look like, not to mention, like I said, he's 4 or 5 years older than he was the last time he played. With all of that said, let's hope being back in the NFL doesn't re-trigger whatever was triggered the first time that led Aldon down the wrong path. You'd hope that he's older and wiser and able to avoid pitfalls in Dallas, Texas, okay? Being a Dallas Cowboy, there's gonna be plenty of temptation, but hopefully Aldon's able to cope with NFL life better the second time around. My name is FlemLo Raps. I'll holler at you next time, fellas. What?
Yeah, I'm no quitter, 'cause I'ma go get her.